in the statement, it indicates that Dr. Murray gave him no propofol the night before, correct?
He gave no propofol the night before?
And he'd gone all the way this night till about after 10 and hadn't given him any propofol either, correct?
According to Dr. Murray's statement, yes.
And then when Mr. Jackson continued to press it that he wanted some propofol, Dr. Murray gave him some propofol between 10:40 and 10:50. Is that what you read?
That's correct.
Now, how much propofol did he give him?
He gave 25 milligrams of propofol and then started him on a drip.
No, it doesn't say he started him on a drip, does it?
I think it does, yes.
Well, it doesn't.
It doesn't?
No.
Can I look at the...
Sure.
I look at page 34, sir, and it says it is both given... He's describing it to Detective Smith. This is not of the night, this is during the interview, and he says, it is given both in IV form, and usually most patients are given a certain amount of drug based on their body weight, and then they can be started on an infusion slow enough to keep them, the levels of plasma up so that they can sleep. So they're insinuating that usually a bolus and called a dose and a infusion is usually given.
But he didn't give a drip that night, though, did he?
Hold on.
Okay.
Then on page 36, he says, how much did you give initially? And he said 25 milligrams. That's initially. If he should have said all I gave was 25 milligrams. He just said initially before. Can I ask you, he was giving an infusion every night according to his testimony. And then here on page 39, when I've given it to him before, he handled it fine. This is the end of 39. He handled it fine, and Detective Smith goes, the same dose? And Dr. Murray corrects him, dose and a drip. This is page 39. And then on page 40, it says here, the highest amount I've given him initially, direct on the IV before, starting a drip on him, would be twice that amount, 50 milligrams. So a drip is basically an infusion because that's a nickname of a drip. And so he says on page 40 that he was on a drip. And then here, when he was describing what Dr. Adams was doing in page 54, he had his Diprovan drip going. And then on page 62, which was they were pertaining to the night of the occurrence of the arrest, Detective Martinez says, it is quick aside, it is something that has continually introduced to him as a drip, or is this something just a small injection? And Dr. Murray says, you do a small injection to help him sleep, and then you try to drip slowly. And so I think based on his own testimony, Mr. Flanagan, Mr. Jackson was on a drip that night. And it makes logical sense because, you don't see, that's just such a small dose that, no one goes to sleep with such a small dose.
On Wednesday, or that night, when he died, he'd only given him 25 milligrams infused over 3 to 5 minutes. Is that correct?
Yes, he gave 20.
He never said he gave a drip.
I disagree with you. He gave a drip. It says here. So you're saying that, let me repeat your question. Every single night for the last 2 months, he was giving 50 milligrams bolus and a drip every night of his powerful anesthetic agent.
Yes.
That 2 nights ago, he gave 25 milligrams and a drip, and that night he only gave 25 milligrams by itself. But am I right? So it's established, I just want to understand, it's established that every other night he gave a drip, all 2 months he was on a drip. and he was on a drip 2 days prior. But
He was on
tonight,
a-
he wasn't on a drip?
It doesn't say he was on half a dose and half the drip 2 days earlier. Correct?
Yeah.
And he slept all night.
He slept all night on the drip.
Yes. And then he was trying to get him off of the Propofol. The following night, he gave him only lorazepam and midazolam. Did you see that?
Yes, sir.
And he indicated he thought he was really onto something, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then he comes down to the Wednesday night, he's trying to treat him the same way. He wants to give him lorazepam and midazolam only. Isn't that correct?
He wants to.